episode 102 of Talkoffamepod podcast with your host, Kyliemontigney. And I'm so excited to have on host of the Patriot Talk, Caroline Smith. Thank you so much for coming on, Caroline.
Thank you so much for having me. Sorry, I can't talk today. Thank you so much for having me, Kylie. It's an honor to join you. I'm so sorry we had a bunch of technical problems with the Zoom, but I'm so glad to finally be here, and I'm so excited to have a conversation with you. We're gonna have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And so you host a political show called the Patriot Talk. Can you tell us more about the show and why you started it?
Yeah, for sure. So actually, Kylie, I never intended on getting involved in politics whatsoever. I hated politics. I kind of saw politics as something like the men in my family would discuss over Thanksgiving dinner if the weather was too boring to talk about, you know?
Yeah.
So I never really foresaw myself sticking the foot in the door in politics in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. I'm raised in a family that's very Christian, very conservative. So, I've always leaned that way just because of my biblical beliefs above everything else. But I never planned to get involved in politics. But then 2020 came, and my governor, I live in Alabama, my Governor Ivy, who's actually a Republican, shut down churches, but she wouldn't shut down liquor stores. She wouldn't shut down abortion clinics, but she shut down churches. And that's when I realized you have to stand up for something or you're going to lose it. Religious liberty is more important to me than anything else because, hey, America didn't create religious liberty, but religious liberty created America. That's why our country was founded. So when I realized that if I don't fight for freedom, then it's going to be taken away from me, I actually started to value freedom more. And it's kind of sad when you think about it, but the reality of the matter is that a lot of us didn't care about politics until 2020, especially young people. We didn't really see how it could closely affect our lives until we started having our freedom taken away from us. And it's when we started having our freedom taken away from us that we really started to value it more than ever before. And in my case, that's exactly what happened. So, like I said, my granddad was a pastor. Our governor shut down the churches. And so it really affected me on a very personal level. I'd never had the government stick their fingers in my personal life like that ever before. I didn't know they could do that. And constitutionally, that was never supposed to happen. But it happened anyways. So in 2020, politics kind of became my obsession. And then, it happened to be an election year. So that made it, even better. I got to go to some Trump rallies and really started to meet people that were really, really involved in politics. Because at the time I wasn't really involved. And I kind of did it as a hobby. And I was so interested in learning everything about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, everything. And then in 2021, it was February. Joe Biden was in office, and I knew that he had been selected, not elected. I think you probably agree with me. I don't know if
I agree with you 100%.
But definitely I believe Joe Biden was selected, not elected, and I was very discouraged. I thought, okay, this is it. It's over for us. There's no hope for America. And so on Inauguration Day for Joe Biden, I had the TV turned on, and I saw President Trump and Melania leaving the White House, and then I cut it off because I couldn't watch the rest of it. I'm like, I'm not going to watch this. I'm going to cry. So actually, I went up to my bedroom, and I was like, I thought I was going to cry or whatever, but I didn't. I got on my knees. I started praying. I started worshiping. I truly felt the Holy Spirit. And I just prayed. I was like, God, if you can use me in any way, shape, or form, I was 14 at the time, then please do it. And 2 weeks later, I woke up at literally 2 a.m. and I went over to my computer to start just typing, and the name, the Patriot Talk, came to me. And so I was like, okay, we're doing this. Started a political show, had no intention of doing that. And it's been a year later. I've gotten to meet with President Trump, interviewed members of Congress, senators. I'm an ambassador for Turning Point USA and for Live Action Org and for Young Women for America. So it's really been a crazy journey. But God has been so good through it all. And I can just see that none of this has been my work. Obviously it takes time, but it's all been God. And I'm sure you've seen the same thing in your podcast and your incredible success that you've had. I've been binge watching your episodes. I'm like, man, this girl's consistent. She's always been out episodes and I love it. Yeah, that's how I got started, and that's how the show came to be.
Yeah, I love that. That's how I was. In 2020, I was really interested in politics, which and I was 14, probably 13, 14 as well when in 2020. And plus, back, one of my favorite shows is Commander in Chief, which is about the first woman president.
Yeah.
So that's really the show that really got all for me. And like when I watch politics, and whenever downstairs with my parents or whenever I'm with family, my family might bring up politics or something, and I'll be like, if someone brings up politics or someone I don't like, I'm gonna be fired up. I'm literally
Mhm.
gonna go off. And like
Yeah.
when I see like something like on the TV, I'm like, God, like why is this happening? Like this is
Mhm.
bull. And like with the politics with the whole election 2020, like you said, I think he was selected, not elected. Like
Mhm.
I personally think, like personally, I thought Trump, for my personal opinion, I thought Trump was going to win that election
Mhm.
in 2020. I thought it was, of course, Biden has been in government stuff for years, decades before we were
Mhm.
even born. So of course he had some government experience, but I
Yeah.
never thought in my life that he was kind of going to be in office.
Mhm.
I thought like Trump was going to be like a second term and win, and then we'll get another person in 2024.
Yeah.
And that's not really what happened. And
Mhm.
when and during the inauguration, like you said, like I was watching the inauguration, I didn't want to watch inauguration, but like since there's gonna be like the first female vice president, and so there's a new president, and I was like, oh, why not just watch? And like I was just sitting there bawling my eyes out. I never
Mhm.
cried that hard in my life. I was really so crying. My parents were like, Kylie, like, why are you crying? It's literally nothing. And I'm like, it might be nothing to you, but it's something to me. I
Yeah,
literally lost my favorite
exactly.
president of all time. Like I really
Mhm.
enjoyed him. And I over the last couple of years, I went to rallies. There's like I
Awesome.
just went to one in September for Trump. I went to one the day before the election in 2019. And I remember like the Trump rallies are always electric. Like I just love the
They're
atmosphere.
amazing.
And there's really nothing better than a Trump rally, honestly, or any rally in general.
No, definitely. I wholeheartedly agree. I actually, it's so funny you said that you went to one the day before the election because I went to one 2 days before the election. And let me tell you, I've been to three different Trump rallies at this point. One of which he gave me his hat, and the other of which I got to go backstage and meet him.
Oh my
But
God.
the first one was my favorite, and it was the one that we drove 4 hours to, waited in line for 6 hours, went through security, and barely got to even see him. But the energy was so different because it was right
Mm-hmm.
before the election. There was so much hope for America. So that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely, I definitely relate to you on that. They're truly
Yeah.
incredible.
And like what the like the couple in September before the Pennsylvania one, this one was right by my house, like 20 minutes. And
Yeah.
with the line was so huge. Me and my friend were literally in line for 3 hours straight. It was so
Wow.
hot that we were dying 3 hours, but I'm like, I'm not living this line. If I don't get in, I don't get in. But I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't like this is worth it if I get it. This is definitely worth it. I've been waiting for years for this. I don't care. And like, and plus, like Dr. Oz, Doug Mastriano, Marjorie Taylor Greene was there, and I'm like, I was living my
Yeah.
best life. I was in dreams. All of them are really my favorite politicians. So I was like, oh my God, this is like the best thing to have all my favorite politicians in one room and directly in
Yeah.
front of me. And I was literally by them. Like I was kind of a couple of seats up from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Dr. Oz and them. So I was like,
That's so
oh, I was like, I really want to go down and be like, hi, how you doing? But like, it was just crazy to think like, oh my, like I was that close to Donald Trump and
yeah.
close to some of my favorite politicians. And like to think that like I legit thought Donald Trump wasn't going to go on do any rallies since he was done being president.
Yeah.
And so you have interviews on the biggest voices in the movement, including Turning Point USA President Charlie Kirk, Congressman Moot Brooks, Congressman Kat Kumek, former Trump White House press secretary Sean Spicer, Gabrielle Kennedy, Carrie Lake, and so much more. Like, what are the biggest lessons you have learned from interviewing some of the most important people in politics?
Yeah, so it's been really fun. That's probably been one of my favorite parts of doing the show is getting to talk to some people that have really, really inspired me. This year, I've gotten to interview, like you said, Charlie Kirk, Carrie Lake, um, Congressman Brooks. I also interviewed Donald Trump Jr.'s fiance, Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Oh my
And do you know
gosh.
Dr. Ben Carson?
Mm-hmm.
Got to
Yeah, I
interview
know who
him.
she is.
Awesome. And you may not know who he is, but Sean Foyt. He
Mm-hmm.
like started the Let Us Worship movement. That was a super last minute thing. Definitely one of my favorites. But my favorite thing about getting to interview them is actually not really the question part at all. And that sounds like so bad. It's so fun to hear from them. And it's so fun to like get to ask them questions that, the media doesn't. Because obviously a 16-year-old is going to ask politicians a little bit, different, maybe more personal questions than like they're going to get asked on Fox News.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really fun is to like realize that they're just people and that what they're doing and like the change they're making is possible for all of us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got to meet, like you said, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I met President Trump, and it's actually kind of funny because when you tell people you met President Trump, they're always like, "Oh my gosh, that's crazy! I bet it was so scary." But no, I actually gave him a hug before I left.
Really?
Yeah, and he was great. He's like a grandpa. But honestly, I feel like there's such a disconnect between people and politicians. Like we put so
Mm-hmm.
many big celebrities, big politicians on a pedestal, but in reality, if they're just people just like us,
Mm-hmm.
and getting to talk to them and really like communicate on a very personal level has been great. I've gotten to keep a lot of the connections and like, like Ben Carson gave me his phone number after we got done.
Really?
Like, yeah, a lot of them give you their phone number and their email and stuff, so you can kind of stay connected. And they'll be like, "Send me the episode of the show." Dan Bongino from Fox News, he has been like one of my favorite interviews. Did that one last month, and honestly, just getting to talk to them on a personal level and getting to see a side of them that the media doesn't see and doesn't talk about is my favorite part because
Mm-hmm.
honestly, the media, and when I say the media, I mean the liberal media
Mm-hmm.
will portray people in the conservative movement as being so harsh and so brash and so rude and disrespectful, but like these people are making time to do an interview with a 16-year-old and
Mm-hmm.
giving me like all of their time, all of their attention. And so really getting to see the people on a very personal level and getting to see who they actually are makes the world of a difference for me as far as like perspective goes, and that has to be my favorite part.
Yeah, that's my favorite part too. Is like, do you think like people in the industry that are busy every single day or have like a lot of things going on, and they decide to put in their schedule to talk to a 16-year-old that's basically starting to begin a career in the industry as a journalist or whatever like me and you want to pursue. I did think like this, like how far me and you gotten, with how many episodes we gotten, how many people we had
16-year-olds
on.
are doing this, gotta say.
Yeah, like it's like crazy. And like to think like there's so many people taking some their time out of their day to give us their attention and is really willing to give us advice and willing to talk about their life and personal life is absolutely a blessing to think. Like, oh my gosh, like for a couple years ago, me and you didn't really like politics. Like me and you
Yeah,
didn't really picture us doing our own shows.
yeah,
We picture ourselves doing something else. Obviously, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, and like podcasting wasn't, or journalism really never occurred for me to do. Obviously,
yeah,
I have journalists in my family, but that's never kind of something I pictured myself doing until when I started. And obviously, like journalism has been like a huge part in like my life. I'm sure it's for you too, because obviously, if it wasn't for podcasting or what we do, we wouldn't make all these connections.
absolutely. And I mean, I really do think that I was just talking to my dad about this yesterday. Like, we're blessed with such a cool opportunity because, like, 20 years ago, people couldn't be doing what we're doing at our age.
Mhm.
Like, we didn't have the kind of technology that we have today, which can be a blessing and a curse. But at the same time, like, we are using this for so much good. And I really see it as such an opportunity, such a blessing from the Lord that we
Mhm.
get to, like me and you met over Instagram, and now we're talking face to face. And
Mhm.
we live states apart. I'm from Alabama, you're from Pennsylvania. Like, it's just
Mhm.
crazy, crazy to think about. And I love it.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. And to think like me and you, like me and you have been texting over Instagram over the last couple of weeks. And to
Yeah.
think like me and you like can be over social media that wasn't really a thing 20 years ago. Like
Exactly.
our parents never grew up with social media. They didn't know, like they didn't, like they had cell phones, but they didn't have like what we have now. To think like
Exactly.
that's what our generation has, and to connect with people on social media like we have is absolutely insane to think about.
It's crazy. It's awesome though.
And you are ambassador for Turning Point USA, the biggest conservative youth organization in American history. Like, what do you think is so important to be an ambassador for Turning Point USA? What made you kind of want to be like an ambassador for them?
Well, I love Turning Point USA. I actually never thought that I would be an ambassador for them. I didn't even know that was a thing when I first heard about Turning Point. But I watched their Student Action Summit in December of 2020. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I was like, I have to go to one of their events. So in 2021, I had the opportunity to go to one in Texas, the Young Women's Leadership Summit, which I highly recommend. You would
Mhm,
love it, actually. So
mhm,
the next summer comes around, reach out and I'll get you tickets to that.
mhm,
But so I went to that. It was really awesome. It was super energetic and like I loved. It's kind of like being at a big rally, but you're with a bunch of young women who are like super ambitious and have the
mhm,
same morals and values as you do and want to preserve the American dream. So it's really cool. And I also went to America Fest last December in Phoenix, Arizona. My dad and I decided 2 days before the event to just go because they had sent me press passes that I'd applied for like months before. So it was
mhm,
super last minute. We got the last two plane tickets on the flight from Atlanta to Phoenix. So that was really crazy. Such a
mhm,
God thing. I was like, that's got to be God. Just got to say.
mhm,
So I've loved Turning Point for years now, and then I became an ambassador for them this spring, which has been really cool because they like pay for you to go to events, and I was already like I loved going to events anyway, so that makes it even
mhm.
better. And I was promoting their events anyways, so it's kind of like a win-win.
Yeah.
Turning Point's amazing. They promote conservatism, like you said, largest conservative youth organization in American history,
Mhm,
which is incredible. So I'm super proud to work with them. They have incredible leaders in the movement that work for them. So I love it. And it's such a great community. If you ever get
mhm,
the opportunity to come to an event, I 100,000% recommend you come. Um,
mhm.
I can help you if you ever want to apply for like a press pass or something. Super easy. And you'll definitely be able to get it. So
Yeah, like I definitely like I was just looking at this like the turning point stuff before we started talking for an interview, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I was actually looking at the Women's Leadership Summit, and like, where is the thing located? Like, where do they have the event at? Is it in Arizona or?
There are so many different events. I don't even go to half of them because they have some that are like young Latino. I think they're doing a young Jewish leadership summit.
Mhm,
They do all kinds of events. It's awesome. But the Young Women's Leadership Summit is typically in Dallas, Texas. And then they have the Student Action Summit, which I actually went to for the first time this year, and it's in Tampa, Florida. And then America Fest is their big event. This is the second annual one this year. It'll be in Phoenix, Arizona. And these events are just incredible. They're put on so well. The events team, they truly love their job. And
mhm,
so there's just so much love behind everything, and they're all so helpful. And it's just like being together with a big family of like Christians and conservatives. So,
mhm,
but yeah, America Fest is the big event that's coming up in December. It'll be the second annual event, and I hope to be able to go to that. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to go. It's kind of close to Christmas, the 17th through the 20th. But if any of your listeners decide that they want to come, they can use the code TPUSA Ambassador and get 25% off general admission tickets or VIP tickets. So it's a really great event. They have actually full-on concerts at this one.
really?
Raleigh Green, Chase Ross, Raylan, if you know any of them. And then they have a night of worship. So it's a whole experience. It's not like a boring political conference. I feel like when people hear the term like political conference, they think it's like a bunch of, 70-year-old men sitting in a boring gray room. And
Mhm,
that's the exact opposite of Turning Point events. They're so
mhm,
energetic. There are people of all ages. It's mostly college age kids. There are a lot of people that come that are our age, but I mean, I've seen like older people in wheelchairs or people bringing their babies. Like it's
mhm.
crazy. It's awesome. And Turning Point USA is just an incredible organization, and I'm proud to work with them.
Yeah, I have to definitely check that event out. I'm now so interested in going to that.
You
Like,
should.
and so why do you think our generation needs to care about politics?
Well, President Reagan once said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction.
Mm-hmm.
So, this is gonna sound kind of dumb, but I think of freedom like a goldfish, right? And this, yeah, I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. So think of freedom like a goldfish. Let's say you're at a carnival and you win a goldfish. And we're gonna ignore the average lifespan of goldfish for this because that doesn't really apply to what I'm saying. But let's say you're at a carnival and you win like a little goldfish, right? So if you take the goldfish home and you take care of it and stuff, then your goldfish is going to be okay. Usually it's
Mm-hmm.
going to live. Sometimes it's unpredictable, but we're just going to say it's going to live. But if you have a goldfish and you totally neglect it and forget that you have it, that doesn't change the fact that the goldfish was given to you, but like the goldfish is going to die. And
Mhm.
freedom is kind of like that. It's a gift that's been given to us, and it
Mhm.
doesn't have an expiration date, unlike goldfish who, they die and you got to flush them down the
Mhm.
toilet. But freedom is not like that. It's a gift that's been bled for, fought for in wars, died for, and protected so that we could have it. But if we don't continue to protect it, and if we forget that we have it, then we're going to lose freedom. And so
Mhm.
freedom's like a goldfish. That's exactly what I mean. We have to take care of freedom. We have to
Mhm.
remember that we have it, or else we're going to lose it. Because
Mhm.
the media, they're definitely attacking our generation. The elections were just yesterday. We saw that so much of
Mhm.
our generation voted extremely liberal, even in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and it was very discouraging to see. So it's so important that our generation gets involved because, hey, it's bigger than just us. We're preserving freedom for the next generation of Americans.
Mhm.
A lot of my friends, they talk about, Caroline, it's great that you're in politics, but that's not really my thing. I don't keep up with it. But they also talk about wanting to be a mom and wanting to have kids, but they don't realize that like those two things go together. If you want to
Mhm.
have kids, then don't you want them to grow up in a safe America? Don't you want
Mhm.
them to have freedom? So it's definitely more about preserving freedom for the next generation than anything else. It's not really about us and why we should get involved for our own reasons. Obviously, preserving individual liberty so important, but
Mhm.
more than anything, it's about saving liberty for the next generation.
100%. Obviously, with the turning of Roe v. Wade earlier this year, that has made like such impact not on women but everyone in the United States.
Yeah,
Obviously, it's like the government took our right of having kind of kids and why we should have an abortion depending on what like our circumstances, but we had to our government is real our state government is really controlling us and what we want them to do. And that's why being a mom and having kids and politics and stuff are kind of similar, like you said. And because obviously the government thinks like, oh, this Roe v. Wade is the best thing, like this will be the best thing. I mean, in some ways it's good for the overturn of Roe v. Wade. There's some ways that it's good for the country, but most of like 90% of it, it's not. Obviously, you took our right to have kids and give us an abortion and give the freedom to our states to have kids. But it's obviously our decision as women to have kids and why we should have an abortion. You may never know if you were raped or you might have a health problem or whatever the circumstance is for you or something. Like there's obviously always a reason to have an abortion. Even though like there's many reasons, and like obviously Roe v. Wade hurt me so much. I was like, oh my god, this is like why I was literally crying. This that hurt me
you're
so
fine when
much.
Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Yeah, overturned, yeah.
Yeah, but the way I look at that is, according to Planned Parenthood, less than 1% of abortions, and this was surprising. I thought it was more than that, but less than 1% of abortions are due to rape or incest.
Oh
So I
really?
thought, yeah, less than 1%. So I'm not saying that the lives of that less than 1% don't matter. They matter equally to every other life.
Mm-hmm.
But still, it's only less than 1%, and yet the left is trying to justify abortions with that. Like, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, there are so many innocent lives that have been saved since the overturning of Roe versus Wade. A lot of my friends were really, sad. They're like, oh, female rights have been taken away. But like, what about the rights of the innocent unborn who are females?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
over 10 million innocent unborn lives have been saved since Roe versus Wade was overturned. And at
Mm-hmm.
least half of them were women. So young,
Mm-hmm.
women who weren't even born yet. And it's been really encouraging to not only see Roe versus Wade overturned in our lifetime. I didn't even know if that would happen, but
Yeah.
to see so many governors take a stand and sign the heartbeat bill, just like my governor here in Alabama did. She's not my favorite. She's
Mm-hmm.
kind of a coward, but she did this, and I really do respect her for it. She
Mm-hmm.
signed the heartbeat bill, and that means that like after the baby has a heartbeat, like 2 weeks, you can't get an abortion. Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
in California, they're trying to make it where you can get an abortion the day that the baby's born.
Really?
Kill the baby after the baby is out of the womb.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's murder.
That's a murder, yeah.
So it's been really crazy to see, but it's definitely, yeah. There's been a huge impact that politics have had on our generation and are going to have
Mm-hmm.
on future generations. But this is definitely, I think, a good thing more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
10 million lives have been saved. It's incredible.
Yeah, like there obviously are pros and cons to overturn overweight, but it's like I feel like with the overturn of Roe v. Wade, it has made women's lives a little easier, but also like a little dangerous if you would decide to murder a child after they're born out of the womb. But
Yeah,
I wanted to
what people
ask.
don't understand. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But what people don't understand about Roe versus Wade is that it didn't ban abortion like across the board. Like abortion is still legal in Pennsylvania.
Mhm.
It's still legal in a lot of Democrat-run states.
Yeah.
But it banned it in the states that chose to ban it. So a
Mhm.
lot of people thought when Roe versus Wade was overturned that it banned abortion in every single state. Unfortunately, it didn't. It only banned abortion in the states that chose to ban abortion.
Yeah.
The the people and the Republican governors chose to ban abortion. So like it's still legal in California, still legal in Pennsylvania, and hopefully we're going to see a change happen, but currently that's, what's going on.
And so like, since like the midterms were yesterday, like what do you think the biggest like pros and cons were from the 22 midterms?
Oh boy, we were just talking about this before we got started filming, and
Mhm.
it's honestly crazy. I think it's pretty disheartening. I'm gonna be honest. I was expecting a red wave, and it
Me
kind of feels
too.
more like a red sprinkle.
Yeah.
I think in the coming hours and later on tonight, maybe by the time this podcast is up, we're gonna see that there have been more wins, more victories for
Hmm.
the Republican side, for pro American politicians, but like there have also been major losses. For
Hmm.
example, in Pennsylvania, your state with John Fetterman,
Yeah.
Dr. Oz lost. That was definitely a big loss for America.
Yeah.
Really very upset about that. That was an
Hmm.
election that I kept a very, very close eye on, even though I'm not from Pennsylvania, because it's so important. These Senate
Hmm.
seats are so important. And so to see someone who can't even put a sentence together beat
Hmm.
this like brilliant man who was going to fight for America, really disappointing. And
Hmm.
another thing that we can take away from this is that our generation as a whole will vote for Pokemon if there is a D next to
His
the
name,
name on
yeah.
the ballot. Yeah, they'll go through and they'll like immediately vote for Democrats because that's
Hmm.
what you go on TikTok or whatever. That's what they're being told. Like if
Yeah.
if you care about people, if you love people, then you're gonna vote for Democrats. You're gonna support people
Hmm.
like AOC. And
Hmm.
it's just crazy to see that. It's sad that our generation doesn't take the time to actually figure out why they believe what they believe, but
Hmm.
they hear stuff, they see what their friends are saying, and they're like, that must be what I believe too. They don't exactly know why that's what they believe, and it's been really sad to see. But the biggest thing that I've taken away from this is that we have to keep getting the truth out there to our generation.
Hmm.
If we don't, then we are going to lose our country, and that's just a sad reality.
Exactly. And so like with the like for me, like when me and you were talking before we started, like I love Dr. Oz and
Mhm.
I thought he was gonna win this whole thing after like the whole debate. And
Mhm.
I was like, this is kind of gonna be like a little not like an easy win, but like
Yeah.
kind of like I kind of thought he was gonna win the whole thing.
Yeah.
I knew it was gonna be close, a close selection, but I thought Dr. Oz was going to win, even though Fetterman is leading in the polls, and polls are not always accurate.
Yeah.
And like when I woke up this morning to see Fetterman won, I literally thought it was a joke. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I was so upset that I was like, this can't be possible that Fetterman won. Of course, like some people might support him and what he believes in. Of course, I support that. But I kind of thought like after the debate and stuff, like it kind of showed him what he believed in, how he would be a senator.
Yeah.
And so like in 2024, like what do you think about like former President Donald Trump's chance to win in 2024 if he runs?
Well, he's gonna announce it, and it's gonna be next week. He's running,
Really?
and yeah, he's gonna run for president. And I've spoke to several members of his family. If he doesn't, I'll be super shocked
Me
because like
too. Yeah.
he's running. I believe he has a good shot to win for sure,
Mhm.
and I'd be happy to work for his campaign team should he get the Republican nomination. But here's a big thing. He has been really dogging Governor DeSantis, and that's not my opinion. That's what he's been doing. He's been attacking Governor DeSantis. I think it was at the Pennsylvania rally actually. He called him Governor DeSanctimonious, saying that DeSantis has a big ego. And I really don't think that's smart strategizing, attacking a
Yeah.
conservative governor when you're trying to win over
Mhm.
conservatives, especially in the state of Florida, which was a swing state. I mean,
Yeah.
that's probably not the best idea. But if President Trump, stays on the same team as America and definitely, incorporates Ron DeSantis, then I think he's got a good shot to win. Should
Mhm.
Ron DeSantis decide to run, I think he could beat President Trump, honestly.
Mhm.
But I definitely think it's probably going to end up with President Trump having the Republican nomination.
Yeah.
Um, I'm actually kind of worried Michelle Obama is going to run, but not as as a Democrat. But we're not going to get into that right now. That's for
Yeah.
another day. But yeah, those are my thoughts on 2024 right now.
Yeah, and like I saw like some like I personally think he's gonna run 2024, and
Yeah,
I'm definitely probably gonna vote for him because
yeah.
I can like for me and you, like when's your birthday?
April, so it'll be
April.
my first time
So
voting.
me
Yeah,
and you will be able to vote in 2024. It's my birthday's in September, so I'm right on the deadline. And like I like if Trump like votes, it'll be probably the biggest like kind of blessing in a row because obviously most Republicans seeing like oh this like most Republicans like know that he's gonna run. But like
hmm
I heard like some like things online that he's gonna have like Marjorie Taylor Greene as his running mate. And like did you see that? Like he's gonna have like Marjorie Taylor Greene is in
I did
talks.
see that. Yeah,
And I think like oh there's like with the power of Marjorie Taylor Greene and things she does, like Democrats do not stand her. Like they do not like her. And I personally think Marjorie Taylor Greene is such a powerhouse, and especially in politics in Washington, D.C., she's such a powerhouse. And she's such an inspiration. And like to see her using her voice
hmm
is amazing because there's not a lot of people like that in politics, especially in DC. So it's amazing to see her using her voice and this is sticking up for what she believes in.
yeah.
And
Absolutely. And Marjorie, she's really personable. I'm sorry, I can see on the Zoom where it says we have like a minute and 30 seconds
mm,
remaining. It's crazy. I feel like we just got on here. So like if we need to start a new meeting, that's totally okay. But yeah, Marjorie, she is super professional, but really personal. I love Marjorie. I would love to see her run alongside President
me
Trump.
too.
I kind of am thinking Tulsi Gabbard's going to run as vice president, though. I kind of think he might pick her to bring
Mhm.
over some more of the moderates. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. You may never know. It's just so time to figure out who's
It's
going to be
so
the president.
unpredictable. It's crazy.
I know. And so the final question I have for you is what is some advice for people that are just kind of starting out in politics or just would like to kind of be in politics one day but don't know how to start out?
I would say, look, go for it. Just go for it. I never thought that I would have the opportunities that I've had, that God's would have opened the doors that He did, but I just went for it. And whether that means just talking to your friends about what you believe in and taking that bold step, or it means starting a show of your own, like we're doing, or like starting, a conservative account on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Don't be afraid to speak up for what you believe in, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to anyone else as much as it's going to matter to you and God.
Mhm.
So speak up for what you believe in, and don't be afraid. Be as bold as a lion. So
100%. I seriously love that and what you said. And so thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so great talking with you. And like I'm so happy that we got to be able to connect and keep doing what you're doing. You're seriously you're amazing.